Is Charting the Market with Gene Morgan. Here in the heart of the Los Angeles financial district, Gene Morgan uses the most sophisticated analytical tools to seek investment balance and perfection. Charting the Market is a complete technical market summary, helping you to decide when to buy, hold, or sell. Charting the Market analyzes real estate, futures, the stock market, oil and gas recovery, 24-hour world currencies, America's most complete daily financial overview. Charting the Market with Gene Morgan brings you to the dawn of a new financial age, an age where knowledge is power. And now, Gene Morgan.
Well, the action to the downside is decelerating today. The market continued lower, albeit by a minor amount. The rising trend lines are still holding on the market as viewed from the October lows. That's important. The overhead resistance, of course, is the upside barrier. We therefore have an ascending triangle configuration, which on the long term is generally interpreted to be a positive configuration. We find the market as measured by the Dow on the day was minus 4.05. The index closed at 3,439.44. Intraday low was 3426.74. Intraday high was 3453.21. And as we view this, the most watched index of them all, we find that of the 30 components making up the Dow index, 15 of them were higher, 14 lower, 1 was unchanged. And we find Allied Industries was down 1 1/4. The company America up 1 3/4. Chevron down 1 full point. GE down 1 3/8. Goodyear Tire up 1 1/4. IBM down 1 3/8. McDonald's up 1 full point. Minnesota Mining up 1 3/8. JP Morgan down 1 3/4. Sears up 1 7/8. A mixed market. As we view big board volume, we find that big board volume continues heavy, though there was a contraction of 31,484,000 fewer shares traded today than the previous day. Big board volume remains heavy at 287,666,000 shares, the turnover. As we view the action in the Dow 20 transports, we find the change of the day to be regaining lost ground, to be up 20.75 points. The index is within reaching distance of its historic highs. The index closed at 1,665.76. As we view the Dow 15 utility sector, we find this index continued lower for the fourth consecutive session. The change was minus 2.19. This index has now retraced itself to the presence of its rising trend line. The index closed at 241.11. As we view the McCollum oscillator, we find that it inched lower by just 1 point. Yesterday's reading was minus 48. Today's reading is minus 49. Today's minus 49 McClellan oscillator reading is composed of a 5% component reading plus 23 and a 10% component reading minus 26. As we view the McClellan summation index, we find that this index is still declining. It's now made a low beneath the previous most recent lows, and therefore it is this declining tops line or angle of descent that controls the pattern until proven otherwise on the mass of stocks. Inasmuch as this index represents all the issues on the New York Stock Exchange, we find that they have been declining now for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. We find the posting today is plus 1904, and that's down from the previous day's posting of plus 1953. The Nikkei 225 cash index representative of the Japanese market finds that market to be down 55 points for the fourth consecutive session to close the index at 19,773.01. The Amex market value index continues to rest within the vicinity of its previous, within reaching distance of its historic highs. The change on the day was plus 1.67. The index closed at 419.08. The New York Stock Exchange Composite Index continued modestly lower on the day. It is my pointer tying the three tops together, a short-term declining tops line that controls that pattern. However, the rising trend line is viewed thusly from the October lows, and that's still intact. We find the indecision pattern has a change today of minus 0.36. The index closed at 245.34. The NASDAQ Composite Index had a small snapback today, plus 1.99. The index closed at 663.96. The NASDAQ Industrial Index also had a snapback today, plus 3.19. It nevertheless is this line of negative influence that is controlling the pattern until proven otherwise. The index closed at 679.15. London gold, second fix, down 90 cents to close at $339 even, or to be announced as the fix at $339 even. COMEX gold futures in New York, June expiration month, down 40 cents an ounce, closed at $340.70 an ounce. COMEX silver futures for the May contract, up, not up, down 2 cents to close at $3.90 an ounce. COMEX high-grade copper for the May futures contract, change plus 1.15. The index closed at 82.80. This market has been declining at a very precipitous angle of ascent recently, taking values back down to those seen in 1989. Financial futures, treasury bills, 90-day instruments, mercantile exchange, June T-bills on the day were up 2 basis points to close at 97.14 in the vicinity of historic highs. Bonds on the Chicago Board of Trade, June T-bonds on the day, unchanged at 112.07. And as we view municipal bond futures, we find the June expiration month to be appropriate, up 2 seconds to close at 101.03. And as we view euro-dollar futures, that institutional trading instrument of favorite, up 1 basis point to close at 96.78 in the vicinity of historic highs. In foreign currency futures action, the June futures contract for the British pound was down 78 points to close at 153.56 versus the dollar. The Deutschmark, the June D-mark, was down 26 points to close at 62.04 versus the dollar. The Japanese yen on the day for the June contract was down 16 points to close at 90.30 versus the dollar. The Swiss franc on the day was up 8 points to close at 68.43 versus the dollar. The U.S. dollar index itself on the day had a change of plus 0.39. All of these are mixed markets. All of them look like this, declining tops for the last 5 weeks. We find the index closed at 91.13. Crude oil futures, we're referring to West Texas Intermediate crude as the benchmark. We find it to be up 69 cents a barrel to close at $20.68 a barrel. And we find, as we look at the CRB index, 21 world-based commodities, we find the change to be minus 0.45. The index closed at 208.01. The major market index on the day, change, minus 1.23. Index closed at 354.12. And as we view the stock index futures, we always must remind ourselves that the basis for futures is the cash market or the spot market. The reference is the S&P 500 index. The rising trend line is holding here on the S&P, viewed from the October lows. It's right down to find support on the line as we speak. Find the change of the day was minus 1.47. The index closed at 443.63. Intraday low is 443.08. Intraday high was 445.77. And the June S&P 500 futures traded in the Mercantile Exchange in Chicago on the day was minus 2.10. The index closed at 443.75. The Value Line Index on the Kansas City Exchange, the change on the day was minus 0.05. The index closed at 403.95. And the New York Stock Exchange Composite Futures Index on the New York Futures Exchange for the June contract, the change of the day was minus 0.95. The index closed at 244.90. Please stay in view for more market action. May I remind you and invite you to join us at any one of our new seminar series with new guest speakers, new subject matter. Why don't you join us today, for example? Today, we'll be in Studio City at the Sportsman's Lodge. Now, the Sportsman's Lodge in Studio City is located at 12,825 Ventura Boulevard. We'll be there at 3 p.m. We have 3 subjects today, and each speaker will have about 40 minutes, and we have 3 emerging growth companies in the very inceptive stages of their dynamic growth. And John Moore will be one of our guests. Mr. Kelvyn Cullimore, who's with me at this time, will be one of our guests, and Mr. Bill Gallagher, who you met here yesterday with Billy Blue's barbecue sauce, will also be a guest. So why don't you join us today in the Sportsman's Lodge in Studio City. Now, from the Ventura Freeway or the 101, I might remind you, you would take the Coldwater Canyon exit south. It's just on Ventura Boulevard, just off Coldwater. Now, this coming Saturday, that's April the 24th, we'll be in Torrance at the Marriott Hotel, and that's located at 3635 Fashion Way. And from the Ventura Freeway or the 405, you would take the Hawthorne exit east. We'll be in Sportsman's Lodge at 3 o'clock today, and 3 o'clock only. This coming Saturday, always at 10 a.m., always hosting the Continental Breakfast, always for our guests. Join us, bring a friend this coming Saturday at the Marriott in Torrance. Now, Wednesday of next week, that's April the 28th, we'll be in Claremont at Griswold's Inn at 3 p.m. Whenever possible, please use our toll-free number to indicate your interest in attending. It is absolutely a delight to have Mr. Kelvyn Cullimore as our guest today, and to have him have the ability to report the very positive progress that is taking place on behalf of Itec Attractions. ITEC is the stock symbol for International Tourist Entertainment Corporation, and that simply represents an entity that is building IMAX giant screen theaters at destination resorts around the world. And the first one is well under construction in Branson, Missouri, and I know that you may steal this if I don't. I'm always excited to tell people that Branson, Missouri, with a little town with no more than 3,800 people population, will have more guests this year than all of the Hawaiian Islands.
Isn't that unbelievable?
So you are where the action is.
We are right where the action is, and it's already started. You know, it's interesting. We have some tenants coming down to meet with us next week, and they ask us to get a room for them. And we have yet to find a room in the town where they could stay all 4 nights in a row at the same motel. And that's with some 13,000 motel rooms in town. So the action's already started for this year, and we feel very excited about what's happening.
Now, not everyone sees this program every day, and therefore not everyone is aware of Itec Attractions. It is a publicly traded NASDAQ stock, and it represents an emerging growth company. Why don't you give our viewing audience a quick glimpse of the company and what you're doing and where you are at this time?
The company was formed, of course, to develop and operate giant screen theaters at tourist destination locations. A giant screen theater is, in our definition, is a theater that has a screen that's from 6 to 7 stories high, and actually encompasses the audience in that experience. These theaters have primarily been at museums and science centers around the world. There are now 90 of them that have been completed. Our idea is to take this spectacular experience to tourists at very, very popular destinations around the world. We have chosen Branson, Missouri as our flagship site because of the growth that's taking place there and the type of visitors that come. We anticipate that we'll be open with this first theater in September of this year, and we're looking forward to a very successful fall season.
Now, the first theater will have, the theater itself will have about 550 seats in it.
That's correct.
But in addition to that, it is within a 60,000 square foot facility on 5 acres with parking for 350 automobiles and perhaps a dozen buses.
That's correct. Our idea, of course, is to give the tourist an opportunity for a very total type of an experience. Not only will they come for the theater, but we'll give them the opportunity to shop, to to feel the ambience of an area. We have a restaurant that's already committed to us in this facility. It will be a tourist destination within the tourist destination.
Now, I think people need to be reminded that the typical IMAX theater presentation is approximately 40 minutes out of every hour, 12 to 15 times a day.
That's correct.
So you'll have many opportunities to have turnover.
As a matter of fact, Gene, it's interesting, the tour operators, I might just say that Branson is the single most popular destination for bus tours. It's the second most popular tourist destination right now in the United States, second only to Orlando. Those bus tour operators have come to us and said, we would like to have you stay open an hour later. So we're actually going to have 16 shows a day during the high season in Branson, which will give us an opportunity to seat as many as 8,000 people, of course, if we're full.
Now let's talk about your facility. Your facility, you've changed sites 3 times. You've improved the transaction each time. You've, because the planners for the city have changed the entrance to the city from the east end to the west end. You've now moved to where you are at the entrance to the city, but in addition to that, you're between the 2 largest drawing attractions in town. Why don't you describe that, if you please?
Well, you know, it is interesting. As Branson has grown so rapidly, as you know, the sales tax receipts were 44% higher this year than last year. And so as a result, anytime you have an area where you have that much growth, you always have changing demographics and changing layouts of the community. We were most fortunate to obtain this site that's within 1 block of the main intersection where all of the feeder roads from the new access or limited access highway will go around Branson. Shoji Tabuchi, who is a Japanese violinist, is the most popular attraction in Branson.
Charles Kuralt on CBS Sunday morning this past Sunday had Shoji on.
I understand it was a very positive presentation.
Right.
Shoji will pull close to 1 million people this year in that one theater. And we're located right between Shoji Tabuchi's theater and Ray Stevens Theater on the Shepherd of the Hills Expressway, which is right next to Highway 76.
Now, Ray Stevens pulled 800,000 last year in what period of time?
He performs about 210 days a year, and it's been reported to us that he pulled 800,000 people last year. But even if it was 600,000, that's phenomenal.
Now, in all of these instances, all of these people who have these theaters, just like we're going to have, they generate additional revenue from the patronage of other facilities within that, in addition to the ticket revenue to see the show.
They do, and of course that's one of the objectives that we have also. In addition to charging an admission to the IMAX theater, we will receive lease payments from our tenants who are in our building.
And you've expanded that lease space substantially. You have a 60,000 square foot facility. It's a very substantial facility. We're going to call for it on the screen in just a moment. But you are already pre-leased with over half of your space. What do you estimate you will earn the first full 12 months without percentage overrides in general revenue to Itec?
Well, I think if we just do medium in terms of our arrangements with the tenants, we should have in excess of $400,000 in revenue just from lease income. That's not hard to believe when you understand that Mel Tillis, for instance, will do close to $2 million in his gift shop this year. There are just little hot dog stands that are associated with some of these theaters that will net $100,000. So it's just phenomenal. The sheer numbers in Branson are just hard to comprehend.
I wonder if we could ask for the appearance of the Ozark Theater. This is the... Why don't you describe it by title and the facility, if you would, Kelvyn?
Well, this is the artist drawing of our building. And now this building, this is a little deceiving because this is shown from the perspective of the retail mall area, and you can see the large box portion of the building in the back is the theater. If you keep in mind that the back portion of this rendering is 8 stories high, that back wall is 8 stories high, it begins to give you a comprehension of the magnitude of this building. You can see that the first gable is where the restaurant will be located, and there will be outdoor eating facilities there, and that enters, of course, from the mall also. We feel that it's going to be one of the most beautiful buildings in Branson, and certainly ties in with the Ozark sort of a feeling. It's going to be cedar siding with rock accents. The interior of the building is going to be done with these big, huge glulam wood beams. We think it's going to be an attraction in and of itself.
Now, the building's title is the Ozark Discovery IMAX Theater. Is that correct?
That's correct. We feel that through the medium of this giant screen presentation, people will have an opportunity to discover many dimensions about the world in which they live and their life that they could not see any other way. And so we thought it was very appropriate to call it the Ozarks Discovery Theater. And of course, now that we have our arrangements made with IMAX, we're calling it the Ozark Discovery IMAX Theater.
And you concluded those arrangements with IMAX on favorable terms, and yet you did so because they have such a dependability rating.
Absolutely. If we were going to try and do it the cheapest way possible, we definitely wouldn't go with IMAX. But we feel that they have by far the best presentation. You have the greatest sense of being in the picture itself. And of course, their dependability rating over the last several years is 99.8%. So it's virtually no downtime. And that's very important when you have the kinds of crowds that we're anticipating.
Kelvyn, we have a packet of material that's available to any of those of you in the viewing audience. This is the same material that you would pick up if you attended the seminar today. But if you would like to have a packet of information on this publicly traded NASDAQ issue ITEC, trades as a unit, as a common, and as a warrant, we would strongly urge you to call Gene Morgan Financial. That's 1-800-GM-TODAY, and if you call today, it will be mailed to you today. We would welcome the opportunity to serve you in the ownership of the stock of this emerging growth company. 1-800-GM-TODAY if you're outside the 213 calling area, or 622-1234 if you're within the 213 calling area. Kelvyn, do you have any final words of observation?
Well, I think, Gene, the thing that's been most exciting to us is that because of some very fortuitous things that have happened, and because of a lot of hard work, of course, we are considerably ahead of our projected time schedule. It appears that it's still very realistic that we will be in our building by this September, which is going to be a phenomenal feat. And if we can start income being generated by September, we'll see our fiscal 1994 a very exciting year.
Well, now, bus tours have been signed up for Branson for in excess of 450,000 people so far this year.
It's our understanding that there will be in excess of 11,000 buses, which is 440,000 people. And some of the theaters have already pre-booked as many as 7,000 buses. So we feel, of course, this year we won't be able to reach those numbers just because we'll only have 3 or 4 months. But we really anticipate that we can reach our break-even point in our business just on the bus tours. And of course that represents only 10% of the people that come to Branson.
And you've already had bus tour companies approach you even before you were prepared to approach them.
That's correct. It's amazing. The business is so strong there that we already have made reservation for bus tours in October of this year.
Outstanding.
We are very excited. And we're finding that, by the way, our tenants are coming from all over the country. We're receiving calls and visits in Branson from people in Canada, on the West Coast, in many places who are interested in putting retail operations in our facility.
Well, let's hope we can persuade those in our viewing audience to come hear your presentation this afternoon. We will be in Studio City, Sportsman's Lodge, located at 12,825 Ventura Boulevard at 3 p.m. There will be 3 presentations. John Moore who formerly represented Benton Oil and Gas, will be there representing Markham Natural Gas. Mr. William Gallagher will be representing Billy Blues Barbecue, and Mr. Kelvyn Cullimore representing Itec Attractions. All stocks traded in the NASDAQ market, all in the inceptive stages of emerging growth phases. We'll be there at 3 p.m. Please join us and bring a friend if you can. This coming Saturday, April the 24th, we'll be in Torrance at the Marriott Hotel. That's at 3635 Fashion Way, and Wednesday of next week, the 28th, we'll be in Claremont. Before departing on the day, I do want to acknowledge that Mr. Bill Kavanaugh, our dear friend, came through his long and tedious operation in Scripps quite successfully, and we wish him well, and we hope that he's able to be conscious enough to see our program today. Bill, get well soon. Now, Dana Verrill will be up immediately following this program on his program, You're on the Line. Now, let us remind you that in terms of today's market activity, the markets were, for the most part, generally lower, except for the transportation index, which was plus 20.75. The Dow was minus 4.05, utilities minus 4.44. Volume continues very heavy on the big board at 287,666,000 shares to turnover. Decline still prevailed, but by a narrow margin on the big board. 951 declining issues versus 927 advancing issues. The down volume column accounted for 134 million shares. The up volume accounted for 123 million shares. NASDAQ indices had modest snapback. NASDAQ advances prevailed, 1,406 in number versus 1,264 for declines. NASDAQ volume 244,864,000 shares to turnover. Quartron changes double-digit positive. McClellan oscillator was down 1 point to a reading of minus 47. Deduct a minus 47 from the previous day's summation. It gives today's posting a reading of plus 1904. Benton Oil and Gas closed unchanged at 9 1/4 on 29,005. Patrick Petroleum closed unchanged at 2.5 on 3,400 shares. Markham Gas, Natural Gas, MGAS, the symbol, off an eighth at 9 5/8 on 29,000 shares. Spectrum Units closed unchanged at 3 5/8. Spectrum Common closed up 1/32 at 3 3/32 on 134,900 shares. The warrants closed at 3/4 even on 55,200 shares. Trend Vision closed down at 32nd at 13 32 on 22,000 shares. And Billy Blues Barbecue Common closed up 6 32 at 8 3/8 on the Common. That's BBBQ. The Preferred closed down 3/8 at 10 7/8. That's BBBQP. And the subject today is Itec Attractions. The units closed at 7 unchanged. The Common closed at 5 1/4 up an eighth, and the warrants closed at 1 1/2 up 1/4. I'm Gene Morgan, Trading the Market. My guest has been Kelvyn Cullimore, founder and president of Itec Attractions, the NASDAQ traded issue that is in the inceptive stages of a major growth phase. Thank you for viewing. Dana Verrill coming up next on You're on the Line, immediately following this program, if you please.
This has been
In the transportation